The legend of the armor. The galaxy had long whispered about it. A weapon like no other, a suit of armor forged in the depths of a forgotten age. This armor was known by many names, but most called it the Eternal Suit. Its legend spread across planets and star systems like wildfire, told by the ancient races who had once ruled the universe. The stories were the same. No being, no matter how powerful or mighty, could wear it. The armor rejected them all. Every alien species, from the mighty Draknar to the clever Venari, had tried to wear it, hoping to harness its unparalleled power. But each one failed. The armor, it seemed, had a mind of its own. It would twist, bend, and shift, never fitting the body of anyone who tried. The ancient races whispered that the armor had been cursed, a relic that only those worthy could ever truly control. Some believed it had chosen to remain dormant, hidden from the world, until the right being arrived. Yet, for centuries, no one had been worthy. The legend persisted, but few believed it. The galaxy had moved on, distracted by war and politics. Empires rose and fell, but the armor remained a myth. Its resting place was lost to time, buried deep in the remnants of a dead planet that no one dared to visit. Until now. Alex wasn't anyone special. He wasn't a soldier of great renown or a scientist whose work changed the galaxy. He was simply a young human, just one of the billions living on Earth. His life had been simple, until fate intervened. One day, while working as part of a deep space salvage crew, Alex was sent to investigate an old, long-abandoned ship. It was an odd request from the higher-ups, but Alex didn't question it. The job was simple: find anything valuable, retrieve it, and report back. He had done it 1,000 times before. The ship was ancient, drifting through space like a ghost. It was small, barely a blip on their scanners, but it had something odd about it. There was no sign of life, no energy readings. Yet, the ship's hull shimmered with strange markings, symbols no one had ever seen before. Alex and his team boarded the ship, their boots making soft sounds against the quiet metallic floor. The ship was eerie, with a heavy silence hanging over it. The crew moved cautiously, searching every corner. But Alex, always curious, wandered farther than the others, his footsteps echoing in the empty halls. That's when he found it. A large chamber, hidden deep within the ship. The door to it was partially open, covered in dust and old debris. Inside, sitting on a pedestal, was the armor. It gleamed in the dim light, its surface sleek and metallic, unlike anything Alex had ever seen. It wasn't just armor. It was something else, something more. The intricate designs etched into its surface were like a map to the stars, twisting in ways that seemed to tell a story Alex couldn't understand. The suit was undeniably beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it too. It radiated an aura of power that sent a shiver down his spine. Alex hesitated, standing at the threshold of the room. The other members of his crew were still exploring elsewhere, unaware of what he had discovered. His curiosity overwhelmed him. There was no one else around, and the temptation to touch it was too strong to resist. Slowly, he stepped forward, reaching out to the armor. The moment his fingers brushed against it, the entire room seemed to shake. A low hum filled the air, reverberating through his bones. Alex stumbled back in shock, his heart pounding in his chest. The armor was reacting, its surface rippling like liquid, as though it was alive. And then, in a sudden moment of stillness, the suit shifted. It moved toward him, as if drawn by some invisible force. And then, to Alex's surprise, it began to change shape. The armor morphed, expanding and contracting, adjusting to fit him. It was as if it had recognized him. Alex stood frozen, staring at the incredible transformation. His hand shook as he slowly reached out again, this time to touch the helmet. As soon as his fingers made contact, the armor sealed around him, encasing his body in a seamless embrace. Alex gasped, feeling a surge of power course through him. His senses heightened, and he could feel the energy of the armor flowing into him, blending with his own. He had never felt anything like this before, a strength, a clarity that made him feel invincible. But with it came a strange weight, as though he had just unlocked something far more dangerous than he could ever understand. The armor didn't stop there. As Alex moved, the suit seemed to move with him, almost anticipating his every motion. It was like a second skin, but a skin that felt more powerful than anything he had ever known. He could hear strange whispers in his mind, ancient voices that seemed to speak in a language he couldn't understand. The words were soft, but urgent, as though they were warning him. But Alex couldn't stop now. He felt a connection to it, something deep and instinctual. He understood, in that moment, that this was no ordinary piece of armor. This was something far beyond anything that had ever been created. It was the armor of legends, and now it had chosen him. Far away, hidden in the distant corners of the galaxy, the ancient races watched. The armor had been sealed away for centuries, and now someone human, had found it. The galaxy's strongest warriors, those who had once failed to wear it, would not let this go unanswered. The news of Alex's discovery would spread, and soon the universe would be knocking at Earth's door, demanding the armor back. But Alex didn't know any of this yet. All he knew was that his life had just changed forever. The armor, the power, the danger, it was now a part of him. And the universe was about to learn that humanity, for all its supposed weakness, had just become something far more dangerous. Alex stood in the center of the room, his breath coming in short gasps, as the weight of what had just happened began to sink in. The armor, once a lifeless relic of a forgotten age, now encased his body. He could feel it. The energy was coursing through him, alive and pulsing, as though the suit itself was part of him. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The power was overwhelming, and yet he didn't feel scared. There was no fear. There was only an understanding, a deep, instinctual knowing that this was meant to happen. His mind raced. What had he just done? How was it possible that this ancient armor had chosen him, a mere human, to wear it? For centuries, this suit had rejected everyone who had tried it. Every alien species, every soldier, every warlord. Yet it had accepted him. What made him different? Why had it responded to him, a simple earthling, and not to the powerful beings who had sought it before him? The whispers in his mind began again, but this time, they were clearer. They weren't just random words or incomprehensible sounds. They were words, ancient and powerful, like a forgotten language that was starting to make sense. A name echoed through his thoughts, a name he didn't recognize, yet it felt strangely familiar. The Chosen One. Alex shook his head, trying to clear the fog in his mind, but the words wouldn't stop. The voice was soft but insistent, urging him to understand, urging him to accept the power that had been bestowed upon him. He tried to focus, to regain control, but the weight of the armor, the power that was pulsing through his veins, was too much. His body trembled as he stood there, trying to make sense of it all. Outside the chamber, the rest of his crew was still going about their search, unaware of the transformation that had just taken place inside. Alex couldn't even hear their voices anymore. It was as though the rest of the world had faded away, leaving him alone with the armor. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. He could feel the heat of the suit, the energy it radiated, almost as if it was burning him from the inside out. But somehow, he didn't feel pain. Instead, he felt strength, raw and untapped. It was as though he had just unlocked the potential to move mountains, to control the very forces of the universe. His hands clenched into fists, and as he did, the room seemed to respond. The walls vibrated with an unseen force. The armor, in response, tightened around him, adapting to his movements, merging with his body as though it had been created for him, and only him. As Alex took a deep breath, the armor responded. The symbols on the surface began to glow brighter, shifting and changing as though they were alive. His eyes widened in awe as the room's lights seemed to bend around him, distorting as the power of the armor connected with the very fabric of reality. It was as if the suit was showing him its true potential, but it wasn't just about the physical power it granted. No, this armor was far more than that. It was a link to the universe itself. The energy wasn't just contained within the suit. It was everywhere, in the air, in the stars, in the planets themselves. The armor was a conduit to an ancient force that few could comprehend. For the first time since he had discovered the armor, Alex started to feel fear, not because of the power, but because of the realization that he wasn't alone in this. The galaxy, the universe, knew about this armor. It had been hidden for a reason. The ancient races, the alien warlords, the empires, they all feared it. They had been searching for it for centuries. And now, Alex had it. He could already imagine the chaos that would erupt across the galaxy when they learned that a human had unlocked the secrets of the armor. What would they do? Would they come for it? Would they demand it back? What would happen to Earth, to humanity, when the universe realized what Alex had just done? The whispers in his mind grew louder, and this time they weren't just words. They were images, visions of what was to come. He saw alien ships, massive fleets, descending upon Earth. He saw warlords and emperors, their faces twisted in anger, their eyes burning with hatred. And through it all, the armor was with him, guiding him, showing him what he needed to do. But the images didn't stop there. There was something else, something darker. The whispers shifted, and Alex saw himself, not in the armor, but as something else. A figure, a being unlike any he had ever seen, standing at the center of the universe. The power that flowed from him was unimaginable, and yet it was too much. The being in the vision was not at peace, but consumed by the power, driven to madness. Alex took a step back, shaking his head to clear the visions from his mind. He didn't know what it all meant, but he knew one thing. The armor was not just a gift. It was a burden. And it wasn't just about wearing it. It was about controlling it, surviving it. If he failed, if he let the power overwhelm him, he might become the very thing the universe feared. But how could he possibly understand what the armor wanted from him? How could he control it when he didn't even understand how it worked? There were no instructions, no manual, no guide, just the whispers, just the power, and him. Alex took another deep breath and steadied himself. He couldn't afford to lose control. Not now. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the universe, rested in his hands. He had no idea how he would face the coming storm, but he knew he had no choice but to try. The galaxy would soon learn that a human had taken control of the most powerful suit of armor ever created. And once they did, there would be no turning back. Alex stood there in the chamber, the weight of the armor settling in. And yet, despite the overwhelming surge of power flowing through him, a lingering unease gnawed at his mind. He wasn't prepared for this. No one could be. The whispers in his mind, soft at first, now spoke more urgently. They were warnings. His hands trembled as the armor seemed to react to his thoughts, the symbols on its surface shifting and glowing brighter. His heart raced in sync with the energy coursing through his body, a constant reminder that he wasn't just wearing it. He was connected to it. The reality of his situation hit him all at once. The armor wasn't just a weapon. It was an ancient tool, a key to untold power. But with that power came the terrifying realization that he was no longer just Alex, the ordinary human from Earth. He had become something else, something more. He didn't know what that something was yet, but the more he tried to focus, the more he could feel the gravity of it. His mind buzzed with information, ancient knowledge, star systems, battles, and weapons. He could feel it all, almost as if it were embedded in his very DNA. But there was no time to process it. The silence of the ship suddenly felt oppressive, like the calm before a storm. The distant hum of the engines was barely audible now, as though everything was holding its breath. Alex turned, his eyes scanning the dark, empty room. He was alone, but that would not last. It couldn't. As his senses sharpened, he noticed something faint. A signal. A faint pulse. Someone or something else was near. He had to leave, but his legs felt heavy, the weight of the armor making every movement feel like a burden. Despite the incredible power he felt coursing through his veins, his breathing was shallow, his thoughts jumbled, yet he knew deep down that he couldn't stay here much longer. The armor had chosen him, yes, but it had also awakened something else, something dangerous. The door to the chamber slid open with a hiss, breaking the eerie silence. Alex froze, his heart racing again. Was it a crew member, someone from his team? Or had something else sensed the change? Something more powerful? He quickly glanced at the armor, almost as if expecting it to offer some guidance. The symbols glowed brighter, almost like a warning. He didn't know how to control it, couldn't control it yet, but instinctively his body tensed, preparing for whatever was about to come. Outside the chamber, the rest of his team had been searching the ship for hours. They had already cataloged strange, unknown equipment, and they'd found nothing quite like the armor. But they hadn't ventured to this part of the ship. No one had. Alex's discovery was something they weren't prepared for, and soon they would realize that the ship held more secrets than they could have imagined. The rest of the crew had no idea that their lives had just been irrevocably changed. But Alex had no time to warn them. He had to leave before the alien presence detected him. He had to get back to the ship's shuttle, get back to Earth. But the path ahead was uncertain. He wasn't sure what was waiting for him out there, or what the armor would do to him once he stepped out of this chamber. But one thing was clear. The galaxy was no longer a distant thing to him. It was right here, right now, and it would be coming for him soon. It was only a matter of time before they found out that a human had taken control of the most powerful weapon in existence. With a sudden burst of energy, Alex moved forward, the armor shifting and adjusting with each step. He moved faster than he ever had before, his senses heightened, his body reacting with lightning speed. He passed through the corridors of the ship, the walls seeming to blur as his new abilities took over. It was both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. He was faster, stronger, more aware than he had ever been, yet he knew nothing about what this power truly meant. His mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of the vision he had seen earlier, the warning he had glimpsed. Alien ships, fleets, there were many forces out there, some he couldn't even begin to comprehend. And they were coming for him. They were coming for the armor. They would want it back, and they would stop at nothing to take it. Alex reached the shuttle bay, his breath coming in short bursts. He could hear his crew members outside, their voices floating through the thin walls. They hadn't realized anything was wrong yet, but that would change soon. They would know that something had changed, that Alex was no longer just one of them. But he had no choice. The shuttle was his only chance of getting back to Earth, back to the safety of humanity. He had to act now. He couldn't afford to wait. The armor was a threat to everyone, possibly even more dangerous than he could understand. If he didn't get back to Earth soon, the entire galaxy would be thrown into chaos. He activated the shuttle's controls, the familiar hum of the engines vibrating beneath his feet. As the door sealed behind him, the weight of the situation came crashing down. He was leaving the ship, leaving the place where it all began. But he knew he couldn't stay. Not anymore. The armor, and everything that came with it, had already set things in motion. He was marked now. There was no turning back. As the shuttle lifted off, leaving the wreckage of the ship behind, Alex's thoughts turned toward the future. The armor was powerful, yes, but what good was power if you didn't understand it? What good was it if it consumed you? He wasn't sure if he was strong enough to handle it, but he had no choice but to try. For the first time in his life, Alex felt truly alone. He didn't know what was coming, or who would be chasing him, but he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had just learned a very dangerous lesson. Humans weren't as weak as they thought, and Alex was about to show them just how dangerous they could be. Alex felt the weight of the armor pressing down on him as he piloted the shuttle through the vast emptiness of space. The silence was deafening, broken only by the low hum of the shuttle's engines. His mind was racing, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions he couldn't quite process. The immense power that the armor granted him was intoxicating, but it also terrified him. The armor wasn't just a piece of technology. It was something ancient, something far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. And it had chosen him. Why? How? What did that mean for him and for Earth? His hands gripped the controls, but they felt distant, as if the armor had taken over his very being. His senses were heightened, sharper than ever before. He could feel the vibrations in the shuttle's hull, the tiny shifts in the fabric of space around him. The galaxy seemed so small, so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. He was connected to it now, to something far greater than himself. But that connection didn't offer him comfort. Instead, it felt like a heavy burden. As the shuttle sped through the stars, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The remnants of the alien ship he'd left behind were far behind him now, but the presence of the armor in his body seemed to attract more than just attention. It felt like every shadow in the vastness of space was waiting, watching, waiting for the moment when he would be vulnerable. His eyes darted to the readout on the control panel. The shuttle's speed was increasing, moving closer to Earth, but something wasn't right. The armor reacted again, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The symbols on its surface began to glow brighter, and a low hum filled the air around him. Alex didn't know what was happening, but he could feel the armor's influence pulling him in a direction he didn't want to go. It was guiding him. No, compelling him. He tried to steady his breathing, to regain control of his thoughts. He had to focus. He needed to understand what was going on. But the more he tried to fight the armor's influence, the more powerful it became. A part of him wanted to tear it off, to be rid of it, but deep down he knew he couldn't. It had bonded with him, and now they were one. He was no longer just a human pilot. He was a vessel for something far greater. The shuttle continued on its path, Earth growing larger in the viewport. But something was wrong. Alex could feel it in his bones, the shift in the atmosphere around him. He wasn't the only one in the vastness of space. Something, or someone, was following him. And it wasn't just a distant presence. No, this was different. It was close. Very close. Suddenly, the shuttle systems blared with an alert. Red lights flashed across the console, and a harsh voice came over the intercom. Warning. Unidentified ships approaching. Speed and trajectory incompatible with Earth defense systems. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Ships. What kind of ships? Who was coming for him? His mind was a blur of possibilities, but one thing was clear. The galaxy knew he had the armor now, and they wouldn't let him keep it. Before he could react, a flash of light tore through space in front of him. A ship, massive, dark, and terrifying, appeared in his view, cutting off his path to Earth. It wasn't like anything he had seen before, not even in the most advanced human ships. This was an alien vessel, one that radiated power and malice. The armor in his body reacted, the pulsing intensity increasing, as if it recognized the ship's presence. It was no coincidence. This ship had come for him. The voice over the intercom crackled again. This is the Carlisle Dominion. Surrender immediately. You are in possession of stolen property. Alex gritted his teeth. The Carlisle Dominion. He had heard of them. Distant rumors whispered across the galaxy by the few who had survived their brutal campaigns. The Carlisle were known for their ruthless pursuit of power, their endless wars against any race that opposed them. And now, they were here for him. His heart raced, panic threatening to overtake him. The armor pulsed again, and Alex's mind snapped into focus. This was no longer just about returning to Earth. This was about survival. They wanted the armor, and they would stop at nothing to take it. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead as the reality of the situation hit him. He wasn't just an ordinary human anymore. He was a target, the key to something far beyond his understanding. The Kar-El had been searching for this armor for centuries, maybe longer. And now that they knew it was in human hands, they would do whatever it took to reclaim it. Alex's hands tightened around the controls, and his eyes narrowed. The shuttle was outmatched, but it didn't matter. He wasn't going to give up. Not without a fight. Not with humanity's future at stake. With a sharp motion, he pushed the throttle forward, sending the shuttle into a steep climb. The Kar-El ship followed, a shadow looming over him. The air around Alex crackled with energy, the armor feeding him strength, but also pulling him in strange directions. It was like a constant tug-of-war inside his mind. The alien presence of the armor was overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. It was like a second heartbeat within him, an endless pulse of raw power. Warning, the intercom crackled again. You cannot escape. We will destroy you. But Alex wasn't afraid. Not anymore. The armor had made him stronger, faster, and more aware than he had ever been. But it had also given him a purpose, one he couldn't ignore. The Kar-El may have underestimated humanity, but now he would show them that they had made a grave mistake. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was something more. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans weren't to be underestimated. As the two ships tore through space, Alex's resolve hardened. He would fight. He would survive. And if the Kar-El thought they could take the armor from him, they were in for a rude awakening. Alex's grip tightened on the shuttle's controls, the pulse of the armor coursing through him like electricity. The Kar-El ship was closing in, its weapons primed and ready. He could feel the immense power of their ship, the dark energy radiating from it, but something within him was different now. The armor, the ancient, powerful suit that had chosen him, was giving him strength. It wasn't just an artifact anymore. It was part of him. And in that moment, he realized that his fight was no longer just for survival. It was for humanity's future. He glanced at the status display on the shuttle's dashboard. The Kar-El had already locked onto him with their weapons, but their targeting systems were still struggling to get a lock on him. It didn't take long for Alex to realize why. The armor had altered his perception of space, allowing him to dodge and move in ways that were impossible for ordinary humans. He felt the energy surge through his veins as the shuttle veered sharply, narrowly avoiding a blast of plasma fire. His mind was a blur of calculations, instinct, and raw, unfiltered power. The armor was guiding him. "You're not going to get away that easily," Alex muttered under his breath, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. He slammed the throttle forward, sending the shuttle into a rapid, unpredictable series of maneuvers. The Kar-El ship followed with relentless precision, but the armor was enhancing his reactions faster than he could comprehend. Every turn, every twist, felt instinctive, as if the shuttle and the armor had become extensions of his own body. For the first time, he wasn't just a man piloting the ship. He was part of something much bigger, an unstoppable force. The Kar-El ship unleashed another volley of laser fire, and this time, Alex wasn't just avoiding it. He was learning. The armor gave him the ability to perceive the ship's patterns, to predict where the next shot would come from. With a swift motion, he cut across the space between him and the enemy ship, dodging their blasts in a dizzying display of agility. "Impossible!" The voice on the intercom crackled, a hint of disbelief in the Kar-El commander's tone. "How is this possible?" Alex smiled grimly. He could feel their panic now. They thought they were facing a weak human, a mere pilot. But they were wrong. He had become more than human. The armor had turned him into something they could never have anticipated. It had made him the perfect weapon. But the fight wasn't over. Not yet. The Kar-El had underestimated the power of the armor and the will of a human who would stop at nothing to protect Earth. They thought the galaxy's strongest military would crush him without a second thought. They thought the ancient power of their ship would overwhelm him. But what they didn't understand was that Alex wasn't fighting alone anymore. The armor was with him, its power coursing through every fiber of his being. The Caravel ship launched another round of missiles, and Alex's heart raced as he watched them approach, trailing fiery tails in their wake. He couldn't avoid them all. He knew that, but he didn't need to. The armor had already begun analyzing the missiles, calculating the perfect path. Alex's hand moved instinctively, his fingers flying across the controls with speed that would have been impossible before. With a burst of energy, the shuttle shot forward, a blur of light and motion, the missiles now trailing far behind him. The Caravel's precision targeting system had failed. For a moment, there was silence. The Caravel ship hesitated, seemingly stunned by the humans' unexpected maneuver. Alex's breath came in quick, shallow gasps, but his mind was clear. His body, though physically exhausted from the high-speed maneuvers, was still fueled by the armor's power. And he knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. He had to make a decision. He could run. The shuttle was faster now. The Caravel ship still trailing him, but they would catch up eventually. Their technology was far superior. Or he could fight, really fight, and end this once and for all. He gritted his teeth. Running was not an option. With a sudden burst of courage, Alex locked his eyes on the Caravel ship in front of him. He pushed every ounce of his will into the armor, feeling the suit respond as if it were alive, its power surging through him. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was a living weapon, and the Caravel were about to learn what it meant to face Earth's might. The shuttle jerked forward, and Alex slammed the controls, sending it into a sharp dive. The Caravel ship, taken off guard, tried to follow his rapid descent, but it was too slow. Alex's shuttle shot under their ship, a sudden surprise move that took the enemy off balance. In that brief moment, Alex launched the shuttle's secondary weapons, missile pods hidden deep within the ship's hull. The Caravel had no time to react as the missiles homed in on their massive vessel, exploding on impact. The energy shield on the Caravel ship flared brightly as the explosions collided with it, but the sheer force was too much. The shield began to crack. Alex didn't give them a chance to recover. The Caravel ship was damaged, but not destroyed. Yet, he couldn't let up now. With a roar of determination, he activated the shuttle's weapon systems to full power, firing everything in his arsenal. A barrage of plasma bolts, laser shots, and missiles rained down on the Caravel ship, each one finding its mark with unerring precision. The Caravel ship began to break apart, massive chunks of debris drifting away into the void. The alien ship's massive engines sputtered, and the once immense power of the Caravel fleet seemed to flicker and fade in the face of a human's resolve. Alex's heart pounded as the alien ship was slowly reduced to nothing more than a floating wreck. And in the silence that followed, he knew that Earth had just sent a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer a joke. And Alex, he had just become something the galaxy would never forget.